What I feel after all of this is it's not about punishing. If somebody has, is struggling and has difficulties, you don't punish them for that. And I think a lot of these programs feel like the kid is being punished. And I don't think that's a great way to go. You're a parent and you think, here's my kid running out into the streets, going to get hit by a truck. You want to keep.
Rob Reiner's story carries a truth way deeper than most people ever clocked. Born on March 6, 1947 in New York City, he didn't just grow up around show business, he was raised inside it. With a father who was already a legendary comedian, writer, and creative powerhouse, entertainment wasn't some far-off dream. It was the family business from day one. That kind of legacy came with heavy pressure early on. Expectations were sky-high and comparisons were non-stop. His mother, Estelle Reiner, carved her own place in pop culture too, thanks to one unforgettable movie moment. Her iconic line in When Harry Met Sally, "I'll have what she's having," became immortal almost overnight and still gets laughs decades later. Growing up in a house packed with razor-sharp comedy, perfect timing, and non-stop creative energy gave Rob an edge most people never get, but it also meant the spotlight was always waiting. Living under a shadow that big wasn't light work. Plenty of people expected him to either coast off the name or completely fold under the pressure. Instead, Reiner leaned forward. He enrolled at UCLA's film school, locking in on directing and filmmaking with real focus and intent. Acting opened the first doors, but education became his backbone. He wasn't chasing quick applause or cheap fame. He was building something that could actually last. His real breakout came in 1971, when TV heavyweight Norman Lear cast him as Michael "Meathead" Stivic on All in the Family. The show didn't just entertain people, it detonated cultural conversations straight inside American living rooms. As the loud, emotional, ultra-idealistic son-in-law to Carol O'Connor's stubborn, old-school Archie Bunker, Reiner stood right in the middle of constant ideological warfare. Meathead was outspoken and relentless. Archie was everything he fought against. That friction made the show electric and impossible to ignore. Reiner had to walk a tight line, keeping the character grounded instead of turning him into a cartoon. Over 9 seasons, he balanced comedy with real human emotion, turning heated arguments into moments that felt painfully real. The result was powerful television that forced viewers to face race, politics, and generational divides head-on, whether they liked it or not. The industry definitely noticed. Reiner picked up 2 Emmy Awards, but the real impact went way deeper than trophies. The show changed how television worked. Comedy wasn't just escapism anymore, it became a mirror. Living rooms turned into debate zones, and All in the Family sat right at the center of it all. Still, Reiner never planned to stay boxed in as just the guy who played Meathead. Behind the scenes, he was soaking everything up. Working closely with Norman Lear and a sharp, fast-moving writer's room, he learned about pacing, structure, and why characters always mattered more than flashy tricks. Those years weren't just a job, they were a private masterclass. By the early 1980s, Reiner made a move that shocked a lot of people and completely reset how Hollywood saw him. He stepped behind the camera. Directing wasn't a side hustle or a backup plan, it became his identity. What followed wasn't luck, it was precision, patience, and years of quiet preparation paying off. From 1984 to 1992, Rob Reiner went on a run that still feels unreal even today. He jumped genres without losing momentum, delivering hit after hit like it was nothing. It kicked off with This Is Spinal Tap in 1984, a mockumentary so sharp it permanently rewired satire itself. Then came The Sure Thing in 1985, followed by Stand By Me in 1986, a raw, emotional coming-of-age story that punched audiences straight in the chest. In 1987, The Princess Bride landed, blending romance, adventure, and humor into something timeless that refuses to age. Reiner wasn't following trends, he was setting them. This wasn't a fluke or a lucky streak. It was the payoff for years spent learning, watching, and refusing to stay comfortable. Rob Reiner didn't escape his family's shadow by running from it. He walked straight through it and came out carrying a legacy of his own. Then, in 1989, When Harry Met Sally arrived and instantly locked itself into pop culture history. The film didn't just succeed, it rewrote the rules of romantic comedies. Sharp dialogue, honest emotion, and painfully real conversations about love made it feel personal in a way audiences weren't used to. People didn't just watch it, they quoted it, debated it, and lived inside it. Then came Misery in 1990, a hard left turn that proved Reiner had zero interest in playing it safe. The film was tense, claustrophobic, and psychologically brutal in the best way possible. Viewers were trapped right alongside its characters, unable to look away for even a second. It was proof that Reiner could push audiences to the edge without losing control of the story. And then, in 1992, he delivered A Few Good Men, a courtroom drama that produced some of the most quoted dialogue in film history and cemented his run as one of Hollywood's most dangerous creative streaks. The tension, the moral weight, and the performances all landed with razor-sharp precision. Very few directors have ever shown that level of range in such a short stretch of time. Comedy, romance, psychological horror, hard drama, Reiner handled every lane without losing his voice or his grip on the story. What tied his films together wasn't genre at all, it was heart. At the center of every project lived themes of friendship, love, integrity, and truth, and that through line never wavered. Strong writing always came first. Then came performances that felt grounded, real, and human. Actors didn't just show up, they delivered career-defining work under his direction, and that wasn't by accident. Reiner built real trust on set. People felt safe taking creative risks with him, pushing deeper instead of playing it safe. In 1987, he took another massive step by co-founding Castle Rock Entertainment, named after a fictional town from Stephen King's stories. The company didn't waste time. It quickly became a powerhouse, producing smart, emotionally driven projects that left a mark. Its legacy includes Seinfeld, The Shawshank Redemption, When Harry Met Sally, and Misery. At a time when Hollywood was drifting toward empty spectacle, Castle Rock bet on substance, and it paid off big. Reiner's influence didn't stop at filmmaking. He's never been quiet about politics or social issues. Over the years, he spoke openly about democracy, civil rights, accountability, and leadership. Whether people applauded him or came at him sideways, one thing stayed consistent: he never hid. That boldness traced straight back to All in the Family. The values he voiced as Meathead weren't just lines on a script. Off-screen, those beliefs stuck. Reiner carried them forward even when speaking out meant backlash and heat. Later in life, he returned to acting in supporting roles, often playing authority figures or political characters with confidence and dry, knowing humor. Appearances in films like Primary Colors, The American President, and The Wolf of Wall Street reminded audiences he never lost his edge. His presence stayed sharp and quietly commanding. While his career kept evolving, his personal life moved through its own turns. Relationships, family, and loyalty always stayed central to who he was. In 1971, he married actress and rising creative force Penny Marshall. Their partnership captured the energy of a changing entertainment industry, driven by ambition and mutual respect. Reiner stepped fully into fatherhood early, adopting Marshall's young daughter, Tracy Reiner, from her previous marriage. Tracy later built her own acting career, proving creativity ran deep in that household. Although Reiner and Marshall divorced in 1981, the bond they shared didn't disappear. It remained a chapter shaped by growth, collaboration, and lasting respect. Later years, during the production of When Harry Met Sally, life shifted again. While directing the film, Reiner met Michelle Singer, and their connection formed both personally and creatively. That relationship even influenced the movie itself, inspiring a major emotional change to the ending.
That single decision pushed the film from great to unforgettable. Once again, Rob Reiner followed instinct over formula, and once again, it paid off. What started as a professional collaboration quickly became deeply personal. In 1989, Rob Reiner married Michelle Singer, and together they built a family rooted in creativity, independence, and honesty. Their home wasn't about image or polish, it was about conversation, accountability, and showing up for each other. Together, they welcomed 3 children, sons Jake and Nick and daughter Romy, each growing up shaped by opportunity and the unavoidable weight of public attention. Their eldest son, Jake Reiner, gravitated towards storytelling early, signaling the legacy was still moving forward. He worked in film before shifting into journalism, eventually landing as a television news reporter in Houston, Texas. His path blended creative influence with real-world reporting, reflecting the values he grew up with: curiosity, responsibility, and clarity over noise. It wasn't about chasing attention, it was about telling things straight and making them matter. Their second son, Nick Reiner, faced very real and publicly acknowledged struggles with substance dependency that began early in life. Rob Reiner chose honesty over silence when it came to that chapter, refusing to hide behind image or denial. The family focused on treatment, accountability, and compassion, not blame. Reiner later became an advocate for awareness, stressing again and again that understanding and support matter more than judgment. Their youngest, Romy Reiner, carved out her own creative lane as a filmmaker and writer with a sharp, honest voice. She's known for her close relationship with her parents and her willingness to confront difficult topics head-on. Romy has spoken often about the principles she was raised with: empathy, truth, and the courage to face uncomfortable realities without flinching. Across marriages, parenthood, professional highs, and personal challenges, those values stayed consistent. Off-screen, Rob Reiner's life was never presented as perfect. It was real, sometimes messy, and deeply human. While he has always spoken with pride about his years on All in the Family, time added layers to those memories. Looking back, Reiner has been honest that beneath the praise and cultural impact were moments of pressure and quiet struggle that followed him long after the cameras stopped rolling. "It was one of the most important experiences of my life," Reiner has said. But he's also admitted it wasn't always joyful. That single admission captures the harder truth behind a show millions still remember fondly. Reiner was incredibly young when he stepped into the role of Michael "Meathead" Stivic on All in the Family. Almost overnight, he was placed front and center as the outspoken liberal opposite Carol O'Connor's Archie Bunker. The environment was intense, packed with seasoned performers, strong personalities, and politically charged material that left zero room for hesitation. "I was a kid," Reiner has admitted. "I had strong opinions, but not the wisdom yet to know when to push and when to listen." That mix of youthful confidence and high-stakes subject matter often dropped him straight into tension, both on and off set. One of the most challenging dynamics he's openly discussed was his relationship with O'Connor. On screen, their clashes were comedy gold. Off-screen, things could feel strained and emotionally draining. Many viewers assumed the two men disliked each other because the arguments felt so real. The truth, Reiner says, was more complicated. There was respect, but they came from very different places. O'Connor, older and fiercely protective of his character, pushed back hard at times. Reiner, still finding his footing, struggled with being seen as inexperienced. "There were moments when I felt unheard," Reiner has said, and that feeling stuck with him. Another difficult truth he's confirmed is how often the show's message was misunderstood. All in the Family was built as satire, designed to expose prejudice by dragging it into the open. But instead of questioning Archie Bunker, some viewers embraced him as a hero. For Reiner, carrying that responsibility at such a young age left a lasting mark, shaping how he approached storytelling, leadership, and truth for the rest of his career. That reaction deeply unsettled him. "It broke my heart," Rob Reiner has said, and that moment stayed with him long after the laughter faded. He once said the intention was never celebration, it was confrontation. The show was meant to hold up a mirror, not hand out applause. Watching harmful ideas earn laughter instead of resistance became one of the sobering lessons of his entire career. For Reiner, it exposed the limits of satire in real time. Comedy could shine a light on prejudice, but it couldn't control how people chose to interpret it. That realization stuck with him. Change, he learned, was way more complicated than writing sharp dialogue and hoping the message landed the right way. That lesson followed him long after the laughs faded. He's also spoken candidly about the personal toll of living in constant debate. Week after week, the show tackled emotionally charged material, and the pressure never let up. You don't notice it at first, Reiner once said, but carrying that much tension eventually catches up with you. The weight didn't show on screen, but it lived off camera. While audiences laughed, the cast often carried the seriousness underneath the humor. The line between performance and real emotion blurred more than most viewers ever realized. Arguments didn't always stop when the cameras did. The tension lingered, followed people home, and sat heavy in quiet moments. Still, Reiner has never tried to erase gratitude from the story. He consistently credits Norman Lear's brilliance and the show's historic impact. "I wouldn't trade that experience for anything," Reiner has said. "But I wouldn't pretend it was easy either." That single sentence says everything: the pride, the scars, and the truth. Looking back, he doesn't romanticize those years. He breaks them down plainly. The reality, as he's admitted more than once, is that All in the Family wasn't born from comfort or harmony. It was forged in tension, loud disagreements, and constant pushback. Every episode carried risk. Every joke tested boundaries. Sometimes the backlash hit just as hard as the praise. That honesty doesn't weaken the show's legacy, it strengthens it. It reminds people that real cultural change doesn't come from playing it safe. Laughter echoed through living rooms across America, but behind the scenes, there was exhaustion, pressure, and emotional strain. Writers argued, cast members clashed, lines were debated again and again. Acknowledging that reality doesn't cheapen the story, it deepens it. It proves that art capable of shifting culture is rarely clean or comfortable. It's demanding, messy, and deeply human. And years later, that human side came into sharp focus during a serious and deeply disturbing emergency involving Reiner and his wife, Michelle. Authorities rushed to their Brentwood, Los Angeles home, triggering an immediate and intense response. Details stayed limited, but the gravity of the situation was impossible to miss. Friends and colleagues who had known the couple for decades were shaken. The heavy presence of emergency crews made one thing painfully clear. This wasn't just another headline. Hollywood paused. Conversations shifted. People weren't only revisiting Reiner's work anymore, they were thinking about his life, his family, and the weight he had quietly carried at home. A house once known for warmth, creativity, and open doors was suddenly overtaken by flashing lights, tense silence, and the rigid routines that follow a serious crisis. The contrast was jarring and unreal. In that moment of shock, the family leaned instinctively on those they trusted most. Not long after authorities arrived, his daughter made a call filled with urgency and fear. She reached out to someone who knew her father beyond the public image, Billy Crystal. The call was brief and heavy. Crystal understood instantly. He rushed to the house with his wife, stepping into a moment no one is ever prepared for. His presence spoke volumes. Decades of friendship, shared laughter, creative collaboration, and loyalty that didn't disappear when things turned dark. That moment marked a quiet turning point, a reminder that even people seen as legends face private crises that ripple far beyond their own walls. Moments like this pull back the curtain and strip away mythology. What remains isn't the sitcom, the speeches, or the applause. It's people navigating pressure, belief, fear, and connection. And in that truth, Rob Reiner's story becomes more than influential. It becomes unmistakably human. If you made it this far, make sure to comment, like, share, and subscribe for more deep stories brought to you by Silent Stardom.